Now, I'm a filthy Nintendo fanboy, and I've made no attempts to hide that. That being said, the Switch 2 is not without criticism. In fact, I have not purchased one. I probably will eventually, especially when a new mainline Zelda is announced. We all have our weaknesses, but yes, there's plenty to warrant criticism. There's also a lot of folks, in my opinion, have taken it too far. However, with the news that Switch 2 and Nintendo might be bricking consoles for playing used Switch games that likely have the upgrade for Switch 2 compatibility, that could change the entire dynamic of how the third-party market for games works, and my boy Abe Eric has done a video on this. Now, I don't know too terribly much about it, but I am very interested in the subject, so welcome back to Words Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and yes, your Switch 2 can get banned from a used game. Now, I'm learning this along with you guys. I don't have the info. I'm going to have my boy here explain it. And, of course, like, subscribe, and share his original video as well as mine in the description. The video link will be in the description below. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it.
Because somebody just bought a $20 cartridge off eBay, and it got their brand new $450 Nintendo Switch 2 permanently banned from online play.
Okay, so it looks like it's not about the console being bricked, but being banned from online play. That's still a pretty big deal. I mean, if you bought a used game, again, think about when we grew up, you know, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and online gameplay was just a staple of, like, the Xbox 360 era and onwards. Dude, going to GameStop and buying used games is, the third-party market for gaming was kind of the lifeblood of the hobby. The idea that this is going to go away, or could go away, because let's be real, while Nintendo is doing this currently, seemingly, yeah, we're only 16 seconds in, we'll definitely have to see more, but if Nintendo's doing this currently, there's nothing to suggest that Sony or Microsoft wouldn't do the same.
Not hacked, just a regular cartridge with a very shady history, and this might be way bigger than anyone realizes.
Okay, well, the cartridge is a shady history. That does call some things into question, but let's see if he explains what he means by a shady history.
So here's what kicked this off. There's a YouTuber by the name of Quinn Nelson, also known as Snazzy Labs. They're a tech YouTuber with over 1 million subscribers. They tweeted that their Switch 2 got banned right after they inserted a used copy of Bayonetta 3 that they bought off.
So he says, sorry for the blurry screenshot. He deleted this tweet. I wonder if he deleted the tweet because the issue has since been resolved. Well, I'm sure Eric will go into it, but, all right, interesting.
eBay. And according to him, he just bought the cart secondhand, plugged it in like normal, and suddenly got hit with the dreaded console ban message. That means no Splatoon, no Smash, no online Mario Kart World, nothing. His $450 Switch 2 is offline for good. This is scary, guys. The kicker here, though, is that Quinn thinks the cart had been previously dumped using what's called a MIG switch device, which could have flagged it, you know, from Nintendo's system. They have some kind of, like, software detection system thingamabobber to prevent piracy.
Okay, so if that's true, let's see, that actually wouldn't be a huge problem in the grand scheme of things. Like, if you're using a pirated version of a game, obviously that's going to be a problem. Nintendo's going to have some issues with that. So let's say this YouTuber slash tech guy bought a version of the game that he did not know had been altered, that he plugs into a Switch, they take him permanently offline. Look, I don't know how Nintendo's customer support is nowadays. It used to be golden. I remember calling Nintendo in like 2006 for some customer support for my Wii, or no, maybe it was my GameCube. Either late stage GameCube or early Wii, I don't remember. Either way, and yeah, I got my issue resolved like nearly immediately. That being said, that's nearly 20 years ago, so it very well, Nintendo could be in a different spot now. I'm not sure. I've never exactly needed to call Nintendo support in the last 20 years. But if this is the case and he can show receipts to be like, hey, I bought a used game off eBay, then I would think that that is something that could have his account or his online access reinstated, and this actually wouldn't be unheard of, because again, a pirated and edited and altered copy of a game is a problem for, you know, any sort of first party. So, but again, that's assuming that that is the case, and this is just hey, you bought this game, and it's, you know, the key was registered to a different Switch. We're now going to ban you. That's going to be a whole different scenario, and frankly, it's a scenario I can see being viable or feasible because of the way Nintendo's been acting with the Switch 2.
What's the MIG switch? If you guys don't know, the MIG switch is a flash cartridge tool that lets people dump their physical Switch 1 games and unload them onto a micro SD card. You insert it into the cartridge slot, tap a button, and you can cycle through multiple games from one handy little device. You don't have to use multiple cartridges or anything like that. And it sounds convenient, right? But here's the catch. Here's the real issue here. Every legit cartridge, so this little cartridge that you see right here, has what's called a unique game ID tied to it. Okay? So if Nintendo sees multiple consoles using the same ID and they're all logged in online, that's a huge red flag to them. And this is where the bans come in. Like DSP says, banned, 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 gone, forever. Not because of piracy, but because of duplication. Okay? Even if you didn't do the dumping yourself,
To be fair, I would say that duplication is technically a form of piracy. Like, am I against it? No, not at all. We all burned CDs back in the day and gave them to each other. Like, oh, yo, you get that new Hoobastank album? Just fucking say Hoobastank. Okay, so dating myself aside, like, we would burn CDs for each other, or shit, back in the day, you could burn PC-ROM games. Those of you that remember what those were, like, me and my buddies would trade PC-ROM discs all the time. So, yeah, am I against duplication? No, but is it still technically a form of piracy? Because, you know, if you copy a game and give that, you know, version of the game to your buddy for free, that means they didn't purchase it. That means the first party didn't get the money. Like, from a business perspective, it makes sense, even if, you know, it's probably not that big a deal.
your cart might be tainted. So I bought this game used a couple weeks ago from GameStop, and I haven't put it in my Switch 2 yet. I'm glad I didn't, because I could run risk of getting my console banned if this whole story is true. If the last owner of this game used a MIG switch to dump the game onto their micro SD card, even though I didn't do it myself, I'm running risk of my Switch 2 being banned. That is a big yikes. So let's talk about Nintendo Switch 2's detection system, right?
Well, before we talk about Nintendo Switch 2's detection system, Nintendo needs to make a statement about this. Now, this is at the time of my recording. This video itself is a very recent video. I haven't even seen any articles online about this as of yet. Whether it be from Nintendo, PC Gamer, Game Rant, all just like the usual sources that good or bad takes. At least they usually cover stuff. Again, not well. That's why we exist, but they do cover stuff. I'm not seeing anything about this, so this could be so early. By the time I finish recording this and posting it comes out at noon tomorrow, this could have blown up. This whole story could be a huge deal, and Nintendo's going to make a statement, and maybe they're going to be working on some sort of resolution for it. The odds of that happening are probably slim to none. Hey, but by the time you're seeing this, technically, maybe it's possible. But all in all, if this is going to become a widespread issue, especially because the used game market, the third-party market, is how so many people, you've only included, get their games, at least when it comes to console games, then yeah, Nintendo's going to have to find a way to fix this or have a customer support option raring and ready to go to get this resolved. Because what's the point of having a Switch 2 if you're not going to be able to play it online with your other buddies that got Switch 2s?
The Switch 2 is a much smarter console when it comes to online validation. Some developers actually believe that Nintendo has quietly rolled out some kind of like server-side system that automatically detects cloned cartridge ID. So if these were all cloned, as soon as they go in online, they'll be detected. Okay? It's like a digital fingerprint. Now, these aren't all online games, actually, but this is just for visual effect right here. All right? So let's say I have Smash Brothers or Splatoon 3, and I put it in. And then there's another person that might have actually previously had it, and it's on their MIG switch. They go online too. If they see 2 or 3 consoles go online with the same ID from the dumped cartridge, that's a instant ban hammer. And that's the terrifying part, because again, like I said,
my question would be, is an instant ban hammer for all the people using that one online ID at once? Because how would Nintendo know which one is the cloned version versus which one is the original version? Because if it's a digital fingerprint or a clone, I mean, that would mean it's identical, right? So Nintendo would have no way of knowing which ones should receive the ban, and they would just ban them all. So people who like either have the legitimate original copies and not even have any idea that they're playing something that was cloned because they bought it used. Now that that's exactly what happened to this guy if this story is true. So this is worrisome.
It means you don't have to do anything that is wrong to lose access. You might even be totally innocent buyer, but your used cartridge.
In fact, let's not even look at this from the consumer perspective. Those of us that are going into, let's say, GameStop and buying these games, when does GameStop become implicated in this? Or insert your game of choice, your company of choice here where you buy or use games from or whatever. Like, the idea, it could be your local mom and pop shop. There's a fucking local video game store in my city. There's a few local video game stores in my city. Frankly, I prefer to give them money over places like GameStop because I prefer shopping local. So the idea that they could be taking in a tainted product, not know it, not test it. There's not even, to my knowledge, really a way to test it, minus they have their own Switch 2, they pop a game in, but then what? They're like, oh, this was a tainted game, our Switch 2 got banned, now we have to buy another one. Like, I don't foresee companies doing that nonsense. So at what point do the middlemen get implicated because they are taking and selling and reselling altered and tainted products? That's not your fault as the consumer. If you're walking into GameStop and you buy a game, you should be under the assumption that it is a functional, operational game. I mean, I remember the one way back in the day when I bought Sonic Adventure 2 Battle Used for GameCube, and it didn't. I got home and it worked at first, but I got about 3 or 4 levels in, and it stopped working. I just got a blank screen saying disk read failure, and I cleaned the disc, tried it again. Same deal. I took the disc to the local game store I bought it from. They did their own cleaning of the disc, resurfacing. Took it back home, and I got about 3 or 4 more levels in. Then the same deal. And this all happened over the course of a couple, 2-3 days. They eventually gave me full refund. It was like, hey, our bad, we sold you defective product. But they can't really do that with this because, I mean, yeah, if your game, which is technically a working legal game, or at least that's what you think it is, shuts your online communications down, they ain't gonna refund you the whole ass Switch 2. So there's a middleman, there's a third-party market issue at live here as well.
Has a dirty fingerprint on it that gets you flagged. And I think that's actually outrageous. I see on paper what Nintendo's trying to do with it, but this is scary. I'm glad some of my used games...
And to Eric's credit, I also see on paper what Nintendo's trying to do, which again isn't inherently a bad thing. Like, clamping down on piracy and whatnot is not inherently a bad thing from a business perspective. That's why the GameCube discs were so small, for example. Like, Nintendo's always been very protective of their IPs, but this is such a broken way to go about it. There needs to be a middle ground.
I actually bought months ago and haven't even put them into my Switch. I'm glad at that point, especially when you look at right now when you get all these games that have free Switch updates, like Super Mario Deluxe and Super Mario Odyssey and Bowser's Fury and Splatoon 3 and
well, I mean there was an update literally just yesterday. By the time you're seeing this, maybe it was 2 days ago. Either way, the Super Mario 3D All-Stars game got a big update. That game's been out of print. That was a limited timed release from Nintendo, and then you couldn't get it anymore. Now imagine this update comes through, people start putting that updated copy on their MiG Switch, then selling the game on eBay at a jacked up rate because it's super rare because it was a limited time release, and you were like, oh man, I finally got my hands on this game. It was out of print. I didn't get it all those years ago when it was released. Now I finally have it. And it breaks your Switch's online capabilities because they're pushing patch updates for these games that are years old. Like, this is actually a genuine concern, especially for a game that just got an update that people are scrambling to get their hands on.
Kirby and all those, they got Switch 2 updates. Previous Switch OG games, whichever ones actually have online gameplay, you're running risk of getting your console banned if somebody previously dumped it, if you bought it used. So now Snazzy Labs is insisting they never used a MiG switch on the Switch 2. And people quickly found a tweet actually from back in April where he actually talked about doing exactly that. So people are questioning, is this actually happening?
Okay, so hope my Switch 2 continues to work my MiG flash game dumps. This is the best way to carry all your physical games at once without risking ban on an unmodded console. Are MiG switches themselves allowed from Nintendo? Like, it doesn't sound like an official Nintendo product, I'm gonna be real. Like, it sounds like, Game Shark, AR Action Replay, those third-party devices that did work with Nintendo stuff back in the day. I mean, everybody and their mother used Action Replays on, Pokemon Sapphire or whatever. So I don't know if Nintendo really has or is okay with the MiG switch or whatnot. Because again, is it convenient? I mean, yeah, it does sound convenient. I wouldn't risk it, but to be fair, I wouldn't do something like this even with like my original Switch. Dude, my homie had a modded Wii back in the day, and after having years of a modded Wii, his little brother updated it, and Nintendo caught the mods and shut that shit down. Like, so yeah, your boy's been hesitant about that sort of stuff with Nintendo pretty much my whole life.
Right? He even showed the device on this tweet cycling through Zelda and other games, so he might be backtracking, maybe not, but it's still raising a massive concern for the rest of us. Regardless of what he did, this opens a very real possibility. Used games bought online might have a history that you can't see, and that history can get you banned. So there's speculation right now because this tweet calling them out that they could be lying about it, that they basically used a MIG switch on the Switch 2 in the past, and they're being called out for it. But you still have the risk of used games, all right? Look, I buy used games all the time.
Even if this guy, this Snazzy Beats, whatever his name was, did use a MIG switch on his Switch 2, whatnot, and this happened to him, like, all right, fair enough. You broke the rules. You're going to have the consequences for your rules. But that doesn't alter what the real problem at play, which is, for people that don't know, if someone uses a MIG switch, they dump the files on their MIG switch, then they sell the game to GameStop or the local game store or whatnot, and then a new unsuspecting customer comes in, buys a game, and they're the one that takes the heat for it. Like, whether this YouTube tech guy that we're talking about, again, Snazzy Beats or whatever, it really isn't a factor when you look at what could be happening on an overall level for Switch 2 owners.
Again, like I said, I just bought Mario and Luigi Brothership the other day. You got Facebook Marketplace, Mercari, eBay, retro stores, you name it. Now I'm wondering how many of those cartridges in a store alone, like what are the odds, have been dumped by a previous owner? Could I get banned just for inserting one of them into my Switch 2, even though I don't even own a MIG switch? The MIG switch community is tiny, right? But it only takes one bad cartridge and one ID clash, one false flag, and boom, Nintendo pulls the plug on your account. It's almost like a pandemic, like a virus going out there because somebody decided to dump their Switch game. And we can't do anything about it. So here's the bigger question, right? The real question here is Nintendo going too far with this? Should they be banning consoles just based on duplicate IDs without warning? I get that piracy is a concern, but punishing regular consumers.
I like that he said without warning. The without warning part is the interesting part of this because what if you got some sort of red flag pop up that said we see that this card is in use XYZ and like there's some sort of maybe an authentication factor or whatnot. Like there does seem to be simple ways to mitigate this. Again, you as a customer might not even know, and now how do you fix it on the back end? Like, oh great, I bought this game and now it's worthless. I have to effectively, buy it over again. Is GameStop going to take that game back? Again, you would need to show receipts. Maybe take your Switch in and show, hey, look what this is doing. Maybe they've got, maybe GameStop has an all sales final thing, and you're just screwed. No matter how you slice it, it's not consumer friendly, and that's the problem at the end of the day. There does seem to be ways that you could make it more consumer friendly, but even so, I don't know, man. This seems worrisome.
People that had nothing to do with it for unknowingly buying a tainted game. I think this is a PR disaster, in my opinion, waiting to happen.
That would make PR disaster number 1100 for Nintendo Switch 2.
Like if this thing blows up even more, seen a few people cover it. RGT, for example, covered it today. The used game market's huge. GameStop is literally a used game chain, right? And Nintendo doesn't clarify things, people are going to get burned, and they're going to be angry. And Nintendo so far has been making some questionable anti-consumer decisions as of late. So here is my advice, guys. If you're buying used Switch 1 games for your Switch 2, be extra careful, okay? Buy from trusted sellers. Avoid sketchy listings. If a price seems too good to be true, it probably is. And you can never be too
And that's true enough. If a price is too good to be true, it probably is. There's major you get what you pay for, dude. Like, my little sister just got back from vacation and some sort of, I don't remember what kind, Dominican Republic or whatnot, because it was super cheap to vacation there. There's a reason it was super cheap to vacation there. The power of her hotel kept going out and whatnot. You get what you pay for is a real thing. In all reality, I'm going to sound like a Nintendo shill saying this, and I hate that that's how it's going to come off, but this truly is just for the best interest of the player if you're going to buy these Switch 2 games. Buy the games new. Just don't buy used games. I mean, and while I hate saying that, at the end of the day, look, if the game new is $70 and the used version is 60, let's say at GameStop, I don't know, is that $10 really worth it? Potentially just banning your online capabilities, especially since, at least as it currently stands, we have no information on how Nintendo will handle these sort of support requests. That seems. Look, just buy them new.
ID
Unfortunately,
with the situation's legit. It means Switch 2 bans are actually going to get a lot more common, and most people won't even know why. They're gonna go buy a used game, put it in, and they're gonna be like, "My banned," and they're gonna look this up, and they're essentially gonna be upset. Like me, I'm running a risk of banning my console if I buy a used game. You're running a risk. That's not right. Okay. Do you think Nintendo's system is fair? Would you still risk buying used games? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, and if you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button. It helps this channel grow. Subscribe for more Switch 2 updates, news leaks, you name it, and real talk, right?
Well, that was a very informative video. Again, I've got 8-Bit Eric stuff in the description below. Make sure if you've not shown my boy some love, show him some love. He's been on the podcast multiple times. We've streamed together multiple times. I love the guy. He's an absolute sweetheart. But yeah, no, definitely, check him out, like his video. But do the same to my own. Yeah, I guess final thoughts on this. I shouldn't be surprised, especially with not just the controversy around the Switch 2 and how unconsumer friendly it has been, but also Nintendo's anti-piracy history. I mean, the anti-piracy history for Nintendo, just looking back at, let's say, the GameCube and the little discs they used, like, those did cause issues for consumers. That's Nintendo being a Japanese company, Nintendo being very protective of their IP company, Nintendo also being a very business savvy but power hungry company in terms of like behind the scenes when it comes to the Japanese market or even the global market. All this does make sense, but at what point do they make a mistake so egregious that they are going to have to step back and, hey, we screwed up, we're going to make changes to XYZ. How are they going to handle the customer complaints? What are they going to do to make it right? Will they do anything to make it right? Knowing Nintendo, I mean, it's a coin flip, dude. Honestly, maybe not. Maybe this doesn't go addressed whatsoever, and we're just stuck with it. Nintendo at no point ever acknowledges this, and they move on business as usual, and people keep buying the games because they're filthy Nintendo fanboys. Hi, me. I'm a filthy Nintendo fanboy. You get what I'm saying? But this is just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, or you can find me at Bolt the Word. And please do subscribe. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news nearly every day. Not always about the Nintendo Switch or the gaming industry, but anime, movies, music, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon and become a member for $4.99 a month. You can join the Discord, choose the articles we go over on a day-to-day basis, choose the videos we react to on the Friday night live streams, and of course, get involved with over 200 new vital idols. We are a bright, beautiful, glowing, vibrant community that I can't wait to grow even further, because we do care about diversity, but only one kind of diversity of thought. If that's interesting to you, join the Discord and subscribe. And until next time, it's all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.